The millionaire runs in panic after hearing a black woman beggar cry for her kids in the barn. Arthur Blackwood, a name whispered with a mix of awe and pity around Harmony Creek, Montana. Millionaire rancher, reclusive widower. For 5 years, the Blackwood Ranch had been his prison, ever since that damn car crash took Sarah and little Emily. Now the Montana wind howled like a banshee, rain battering the barn like 1,000 fists. He should be asleep, drowning his sorrows in cheap whiskey, but a sound cut through the storm, a woman's sob, heart-wrenching, desperate. He grabbed his old shotgun, the metal cold against his calloused hand. What the hell was going on? He crept towards the barn, the massive doors groaning open, revealing a scene that stopped him dead in his tracks. A young black woman, soaked to the bone, huddled with 2 small kids, a boy and a girl, their faces streaked with tears. The little girl clung to a tattered teddy bear. The woman's eyes, wide with raw terror, locked onto his. "Please," she begged, her voice trembling. "Please, mister, just let us stay. Just for tonight." She whispered a name. "Mark. He's coming for us." Mark? Who the hell was Mark? Arthur's first instinct was to slam the door in their faces, protect his peace, preserve the fragile bubble he'd built around his grief. But those kids, their eyes mirroring the fear he felt every damn day since the accident, he couldn't do it. "One night," he growled, his voice rough, unused to human interaction. Just one night. He led them to the dilapidated caretaker's cottage, a place he'd ignored for years. Leaky roof, broken windows. He didn't give a damn. But seeing those kids shivering, huddled together for warmth, something cracked inside him. Leah, that was her name, started to talk, her voice barely above a whisper. Stolen money, a double cross, a man who wouldn't hesitate to hurt her kids. Mark. This guy was bad news. Real bad. Arthur, wrestling with a conscience he thought he'd buried long ago, knew he couldn't just kick them out into the storm. He found himself fixing the roof, patching the windows. Small acts of kindness that felt foreign, almost painful, after years of icy isolation. The next day, he felt protective, possessive even. What the hell was happening to him? Then, that afternoon, a sleek black SUV rolled up to the ranch gate. A man in a sharp suit, radiating menace, stepped out. "Mr. Johnson," he purred, his smile cold. "Looking for some lost property." Arthur, his jaw tight, denied seeing anyone fitting Leah's description. Johnson's eyes narrowed. As he turned to leave, Arthur caught a glimpse of something glinting beneath his jacket. The unmistakable shape of a handgun. That night, restless, he checked on Leah and the kids. The cottage was quiet. Too quiet. He noticed something odd. A loose brick in the wall. He pulled it out, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, a worn leather-bound book and a faded photograph. A young woman, her face hauntingly familiar, stared back at him. She looked just like Leah, and she was standing right here, on Blackwood Ranch, a century ago. Ei, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer um alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e me conta nos comentários de qual cidade você está assistindo. Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. That night, restless, he checked on Leah and the kids. The cottage was quiet. Too quiet. He noticed something odd. A loose brick in the wall. He pulled it out, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, a worn leather-bound book and a faded photograph. A young woman, her face hauntingly familiar, stared back at him. She looked just like Leah, and she was standing right here on Blackwood Ranch a century ago. His heart hammered. What in God's name was going on? He flipped open the book, its pages brittle and yellowed. The handwriting was elegant, old-fashioned. It was a diary. The diary of Eliza Blackwood, his great-great-aunt. He skimmed the pages, his breath catching in his throat. Eliza wrote of a forbidden love, a man named Caleb, a drifter who'd worked on the ranch. She wrote of a secret pregnancy, a desperate escape, and a betrayal that shattered her world. Then he saw it, a date, exactly 9 months before Emily was born. Emily, his daughter, who died in the car crash with Sarah. He felt a cold dread creep into his bones. He looked back at the photograph, then back at the diary. Eliza described Caleb's eyes, the same piercing blue eyes that Sarah had always said Emily inherited. He stumbled back, the book falling from his hands. Emily wasn't his. Sarah had cheated on him with a goddamn drifter. For years, he'd been mourning a daughter that wasn't even his blood. He slammed the diary shut, rage building inside him like a wildfire. He needed air. He stormed out of the cottage, the Montana wind whipping around him. He saw Leah standing by the fence, watching him. "Arthur, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice soft. He couldn't speak. He just stared at her, his mind reeling. She looked so much like Eliza. Was this some kind of cosmic joke? Was the past repeating itself? Then he saw it. The little boy, Leah's son, was playing in the dirt. He looked up, and Arthur froze. The boy's eyes, they were the same piercing blue as Eliza's Caleb, the same piercing blue as Emily. He pointed a trembling finger at the boy. He's not, is he?" Leah's face paled. She didn't say a word. The truth hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Mark wasn't just some guy she stole money from. Mark was the boy's father, and if what he suspected was true, then Mark was a Blackwood, a descendant of Caleb. He felt the world tilting beneath him. The bloodlines, the secrets, it was all a twisted, horrifying mess. A gunshot shattered the night. It came from the direction of the main house. A gunshot shattered the night. It came from the direction of the main house. Arthur took off running. Leah was right behind him, her face a mask of fear. They raced towards the Blackwood mansion, the only sound, the pounding of their feet on the damp earth. He burst through the front door, shotgun raised, ready for anything. He found Sheriff. Brody slumped against the grand staircase, a pool of blood spreading around him. Martha, the housekeeper, was kneeling beside him, sobbing. "They got in, Mr. Blackwood. They just got in." "Who, Martha? Who did this?" Arthur roared, his voice shaking. "Those men, the ones looking for the woman and the kids. They came back." Arthur's blood ran cold. He knelt beside Brody, checking for a pulse. Nothing. Brody was gone. He felt a surge of rage so intense it threatened to consume him. He looked at Martha, her eyes wide with terror. "Where are they? Where are the kids?" Martha pointed a trembling finger towards the library. "They took them in there. They were looking for something." Arthur didn't hesitate. He kicked open the library doors, his shotgun aimed and ready. The scene inside stopped him dead in his tracks. It wasn't Mark. Standing there, holding Leah's little girl hostage, was Sarah. His Sarah. The Sarah who died 5 years ago in that damn car crash. He blinked. He rubbed his eyes. He looked again. It was her. Older, harder, but unmistakably Sarah. "Surprise, Arthur," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "Missed me?" He lowered his shotgun, his mind reeling. "Sarah, but you're dead. I saw you, the funeral." "The funeral was for my sister, you idiot," she sneered. "We look alike, remember? It was the perfect way to disappear." "But Emily, our daughter." Sarah laughed, a cold, cruel sound that sent shivers down his spine. "Emily? Oh, Arthur, you really are gullible. Emily wasn't yours either. She was Mark's." He staggered back, his world crumbling around him. Everything he thought he knew, everything he believed in, was a lie. Leah gasped behind him. "She's alive?" "That's right, Leah," Sarah said, turning her attention to her. "Long time no see. Did you really think you could run away with my money and my man?" Arthur looked at Leah, then back at Sarah. Mark? Emily? It all clicked into place. Sarah was behind everything. She'd orchestrated it all. But why? Why, Sarah? Why all this? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Because, Arthur," she said, her eyes burning with hatred. "You ruined my life. You trapped me on this God-forsaken ranch. You thought you could control me? Well, guess what? The game's over." She raised her gun, pointing it directly at Arthur. "Say goodbye, darling." Suddenly, Leah screamed. "No!" She lunged forward, knocking Sarah off balance. The gun went off, the bullet whizzing past Arthur's ear. A struggle ensued, Sarah and Leah grappling on the floor. The little girl screamed, clinging to her mother. Arthur stood frozen, his mind paralyzed with shock. Sarah was alive. Emily wasn't his, and now they were all going to die. Then something even more shocking happened. From behind him, he heard a click. He turned to see Martha, the quiet, unassuming housekeeper, holding Brody's service weapon. Her face was set in a grim expression he'd never seen before. "I'm sorry, Mr. Blackwood," she said, her voice trembling, "but I can't let her hurt you any more." And then, before Arthur could react, Martha pulled the trigger. The bullet found its mark. Sarah gasped, her eyes widening in disbelief, and then collapsed onto the floor, lifeless. Arthur stared at Martha, then at Sarah's body. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't think. What the hell just happened? Who was Martha? Martha dropped the gun, her face crumpling with grief. I had to, she sobbed. I had to protect you. Leah scrambled to her feet, pulling her children close. She looked at Martha, then at Arthur, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and confusion. What is going on? Arthur didn't know. He didn't understand anything anymore. His wife was a liar. His daughter wasn't his. And his housekeeper was a killer. As Martha started mumbling something about secrets and family history, Arthur realized it was all bigger than he could comprehend. This was a family secret which had been hidden for generations. But he couldn't think about that now. He'd heard more car engines rumbling up the driveway, and the night suddenly was filled with even more shouting and even more headlights. People were running across the ranch now, shouting and screaming. And then he heard Mark's voice. "Sarah!" he screamed, running toward them. "Sarah! No!" But then he stopped. He looked up at Martha. And just for a second, Arthur watched as Mark and Martha locked eyes. He watched as their faces went from anger to shock and then to recognition. A mutual recognition of what was going on that stunned Arthur to his very core. And that was when Martha spoke up. "It's done now, son," she said. "It's done now, son," she said. The air hung thick with those words. Done? What was done? Mark just stood there, staring at Martha, his face a mix of disbelief and understanding. Leah was clutching her kids, backing away slowly like they were all in some kind of nightmare. And me? I was frozen. Sarah's body lay crumpled on the floor, blood seeping into the antique rug. And Martha, sweet Martha, the woman who made my coffee every morning, was standing there like she'd just swatted a fly. "Martha, what did you do?" I finally managed to croak out. She didn't answer me. She just kept looking at Mark, a look in her eyes that it was like she was seeing a ghost and a son all at once. Then Mark spoke, his voice raw and broken. "Mom? Is that you? Mom?" Martha was Mark's mom? My head was spinning. This couldn't be happening. This just couldn't be real. Martha nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I had to protect him, Mark. I always have." Suddenly, it all started to click into place. Eliza's diary, the Blackwood family history, the way Martha always seemed to know things she shouldn't have. She wasn't just a housekeeper. She was a Blackwood. A Blackwood who had been hiding in plain sight for how long? "You knew about Sarah?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You knew she was alive?" Martha nodded again. "I knew. She was trouble from the start." "Just like her father." "And Emily?" Leah asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Was Emily really Mark's?" Martha looked at Leah, her eyes filled with pity. "Yes, dear, Emily is Mark's. Sarah never loved Arthur. She just wanted his money, his power. And when she couldn't have it all, she tried to destroy him." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Years of grief, of pain, of believing I'd lost everything. It was all based on a lie. And Martha, this quiet, unassuming woman, had been at the center of it all. But the real shocker was Mark. Mark, the guy who was chasing Leah and her kids, the guy I thought was just some low-life thug, was actually a Blackwood. And Martha was his mother. "But why?" I asked, desperate for answers. "Why all the secrets? Why the lies? Martha took a deep breath, her shoulders slumping. It's a long story, Arthur. A story that goes back generations. A story about love, betrayal, and a family curse that just won't die. Then she looked at Mark, her eyes filled with a mix of love and regret. I tried to protect you, son. I tried to keep you out of this mess. But it seems the past always catches up with us, doesn't it? Suddenly, Mark lunged forward, grabbing Martha in a tight hug. Mom, he sobbed. What have we done? That was when the police finally burst into the house, guns drawn. The chaos that followed was a blur of flashing lights, shouting voices, and the sound of sirens wailing in the distance. They took Martha and Mark away in handcuffs. Leah and her kids were taken to a safe house. And me, I was left standing there, in the middle of my blood-soaked living room, surrounded by the wreckage of my life. But the biggest shock of all was still to come. As the police were leading Martha away, she turned to me, her eyes filled with a strange kind of serenity. Arthur, she said, her voice clear and steady. There's something you need to know. About Sarah. About the car crash. She paused, taking a deep breath. It wasn't an accident. My blood ran cold. What are you saying? She looked me straight in the eye. Sarah didn't die in that car crash, Arthur. I made sure of it. I made sure she suffered first. And then, with a chilling smile, she was gone. Arthur, she said, her voice clear and steady, there's something you need to know. About Sarah. About the car crash. She paused, taking a deep breath. It wasn't an accident. My blood ran cold. What are you saying? She looked me straight in the eye. Sarah didn't die in that car crash, Arthur. I made sure of it. I made sure she suffered first. And then, with a chilling smile, she was gone. The police car doors slammed, the sirens faded. I stood there, alone, the Montana wind biting at my face. What the hell was going on? Martha, she killed Sarah? But how? Why? Leah's voice cut through my thoughts. Arthur, are you okay? Okay? Was I okay? My wife had faked her death. My daughter wasn't mine. My housekeeper was a murderer, and my life was a complete and utter lie. Okay wasn't exactly the word I'd use. I don't know, Leah, I managed, my voice hoarse. I don't know anything anymore. Suddenly, Leah grabbed my arm, her grip tight. Arthur, look! She was pointing towards the ambulance that had just arrived. The paramedics were loading a body bag into the back. Sarah. But something was wrong. The body bag was moving. I stumbled forward, my heart pounding in my chest. One of the paramedics was struggling, trying to keep the bag closed. And then, a hand shot out. A hand with a familiar diamond ring. Sarah. She wasn't dead. The paramedic finally managed to zip the bag shut, but the damage was done. I'd seen her. She was alive. Martha had lied. But why? Why would Martha say she killed Sarah if she hadn't? Suddenly, everything shifted. A realization slammed into me with the force of a freight train. Martha hadn't been protecting me. She'd been protecting Sarah. They were in this together. But that couldn't be right. Martha just shot her. Or did she? I hadn't actually seen the bullet hit Sarah. Had I? Leah was staring at me, her face pale. Arthur, what is it? What's wrong? She asked. It's a setup, Leah, I whispered, my voice trembling. It's all a setup. Martha, she's working with Sarah. Just then, one of the police officers, a young guy I barely knew, approached us. "Mr. Blackwood," he said, his voice apologetic, "we need to ask you some more questions. Down at the station." He started to put his hand on my arm, but I pulled away. Something was off. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking past me, towards Leah. And then I saw it, a glint of metal in his hand, a syringe. He lunged. "Leah, no!" I yelled, pushing her out of the way. The needle plunged into my arm. Everything went black. Everything went black. Then, slowly, I came to. My head was pounding. My vision was blurry. I was lying on the floor, the cold seeping into my bones. Where was I? What had happened? Leah. I had to find Leah. I struggled to my feet, my body aching. I stumbled towards the door, pushing it open. The scene that greeted me was even more chaotic than before. Police cars were everywhere. People were shouting. And then I saw her. Leah. She was standing near one of the police cars, talking to a woman in a suit. But it wasn't just any woman. It was Agent Sterling, from the FBI. What the hell was going on? I started to walk towards them, but something stopped me. Leah turned, saw me, and her face, it was like she'd seen a ghost. "Arthur," she said, her voice barely a whisper. You shouldn't be here." "Leah, what's going on? Who is that woman?" I asked, pointing to Agent Sterling. Leah hesitated, her eyes darting back and forth. "Arthur, I need to tell you something. Something you're not going to like." Agent Sterling stepped forward, her expression grim. "Mr. Blackwood, my name is Agent Sterling, and I'm with the FBI. We need to ask you some questions about Leah." "About Leah? What was there to ask about Leah? She was a victim, a fugitive, Suddenly, it hit me. The stolen money. The double-cross. The man who wouldn't hesitate to hurt her kids. It all started to make sense. "Leah," I said, my voice trembling, "who are you really?" She didn't answer. She just looked at me, her eyes filled with regret. Agent Sterling took a deep breath. "Mr. Blackwood, Leah's real name isn't Leah. It's Sarah. Sarah Johnson." "Sarah Johnson? But Sarah was dead. I saw the body. I saw her in the ambulance." "No," I said, shaking my head. "That's not possible. Sarah is—" Agent Sterling cut me off. "The Sarah Johnson you saw tonight was an imposter. A woman paid to play a part. The real Sarah Johnson has been working undercover for the FBI for the past 5 years." "Undercover? For the FBI? But why?" "We needed someone to infiltrate a criminal organization," Agent Sterling explained. "Someone who could get close to the head of the operation. Someone who could gain his trust." "Mark," I said, my voice barely audible. Mark was the target. Agent Sterling nodded. Mark was the target. And Sarah, she did her job perfectly. She got close to him. She gained his trust. And she got the evidence we needed to take him down. But Emily. What about Emily? Emily was a complication, Agent Sterling said, her voice softening. Sarah never wanted to put her daughter in danger. But Mark, he wouldn't let her leave. He used Emily as leverage. I looked at Leah, my heart breaking. She'd been living a lie for years. A lie to protect her daughter. A lie to bring down a criminal. And I had almost ruined everything. But why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice cracking. Why did you let me believe all those things? Leah stepped forward, her hand reaching for mine. I wanted to, Arthur. I really did. But I couldn't. It was too dangerous. Mark had eyes everywhere. I couldn't risk putting you or Emily in danger. Emily, my daughter. Not really my daughter, but I loved her. I loved her like she was my own. Where is she? I asked, my voice filled with desperation. Where is Emily? Leah hesitated. She's safe. We sent her away, to a safe house where Mark can't find her. I closed my eyes, relief washing over me. Emily was safe. That's all that mattered. But then, a new wave of fear crashed over me. Martha. What about Martha? If Sarah was working for the FBI, then Martha. Agent Sterling, I said, my voice urgent. Martha, the housekeeper. She's not who she seems. She's dangerous. She's working with Mark. Agent Sterling frowned. Martha? But she's in custody. We have her locked up. That's what she wants you to think, I said, shaking my head. She's playing you. She's playing all of us. Suddenly a gunshot rang out. Everyone froze. I turned towards the sound, my heart pounding in my chest. It came from the main house. Another shot, and then another. Chaos erupted. Police officers were running towards the house, guns drawn. Agent Sterling grabbed Leah and pulled her behind a police car. Stay here, she ordered. Stay safe. And then she was gone. I stood there, frozen, watching the scene unfold. What was happening? Who was shooting? And then I saw him. Mark. He was standing on the porch of the main house, a rifle in his hands. He was shooting at the police officers. He was shooting at everyone. But then he lowered his rifle. He looked straight at me, and he smiled. And that's when I saw her, standing beside him, a gun in her hand, Martha. But it wasn't just Martha. It was Eliza. Eliza Blackwood, my great-great-aunt. The woman from the diary. But how? It was impossible. She was dead. She had to be dead. But there she was, standing right in front of me, alive. And she was smiling. Surprise, Arthur, she said, her voice echoing across the yard. Did you really think you could get rid of me that easily? My world tilted. Nothing made sense anymore. Sarah was a goodie, Martha was evil, and I was just a pawn in a game I didn't understand. But then Eliza pointed her gun at someone behind me and pulled the trigger. The scream that followed chilled me to the bone. It was Leah. But Eliza Martha didn't turn, but stepped forward into the yard, aiming her pistol towards me as she cackled. I see right through you, my boy. I've been watching you, seeing what you've been up to these last few days, and I'm tired of your interference. In truth, you've become a problem. Now, it's time to put an end to all of this. In fact, I have some surprises that will really make you look at things differently. But Eliza Martha didn't turn, but stepped forward into the yard, aiming her pistol towards me as she cackled. I see right through you, my boy. I've been watching you, seeing what you've been up to these last few days, and I'm tired of your interference. In truth, you have become a problem. Now it's time to put an end to all of this. In fact, I have some surprises that will really make you look at things differently. She chuckled again, a dry, rasping sound that sent shivers down my spine. What surprises? What the hell was she talking about? Suddenly she tilted her head, like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. Her eyes widened, and a strange, almost childlike glee spread across her face. "Oh, goody," she said, her voice dripping with anticipation. "They're here." They? Who the hell was they? I followed her gaze, my heart pounding in my chest. Headlights were approaching, racing up. The long driveway. Not police headlights. These were different, brighter, more menacing. A black SUV screeched to a halt in front of the house, and the doors flew open. Men in black suits piled out, their faces grim, their eyes cold. They moved with a purpose, a precision that sent a chill down my spine. They weren't police. They weren't FBI. They were something else entirely. And then I saw him, stepping out of the SUV, a figure I hadn't seen in years, a man I thought was dead. A man I had buried with my own 2 hands. My father. "Dad," I croaked, my voice barely a whisper. "But you're dead. I saw. You. The funeral." He smiled, a cold, cruel smile that I remembered all too well. "Did you really think you could get rid of me that easily, Arthur? You always were a fool." He walked towards me, his eyes filled with a hatred that burned like fire. "You ruined everything, Arthur. Everything I worked for. And now you're going to pay." "But how? What was going on? My father was dead. I saw him. I mourned him. And then it hit me. Martha. What had she said? Sarah didn't die in that car crash. Arthur. I made sure of it. I made sure she suffered first. She hadn't been talking about Sarah. She'd been talking about my father. Martha had faked his death. She had protected him. She had helped him rebuild his empire. But why? What was the connection? Then I saw it. The way my father looked at Martha. The way she looked back at him. It was the same look I'd seen between Mark and Martha. A look of love? No, it couldn't be. "Martha," I said, my voice trembling, Are you and my father?" She smiled, a slow, knowing smile. "We go way back, Arthur. Further back than you could ever imagine." The pieces fell into place. The diary, Eliza Blackwood, the forbidden love, the secret pregnancy. It all made sense. Martha wasn't just my housekeeper. She was my grandmother. And my father, he wasn't just a businessman. He was a criminal, a monster. My own family had been playing me for a fool my entire life. I don't understand," I stammered, my mind reeling. Why? Why all the lies? Why all the secrets?" My father chuckled, a harsh, grating sound. "Because, Arthur," he said, his voice dripping with contempt, "you were always a disappointment, a weakling, a fool. You were never good enough to carry on the family name." He raised his hand, and one of the men in black suits stepped forward, holding a gun. "It's time for you to go, Arthur," my father said, his eyes cold and unforgiving. "Say goodbye." But then, something unexpected happened. Leah, she wasn't dead. She was still alive, and she was moving. Slowly, she raised her hand, revealing a small, silver object. A badge. "FBI," she said, her voice clear and strong. "You're all under arrest." My father's face twisted in rage. "You bitch," he screamed. I'll kill you. But before he could react, Leah lunged forward, tackling him to the ground. A struggle ensued, the air filled with shouts and screams. And then, everything went black. I woke up in a hospital bed, my body aching, my head pounding. A police officer was sitting beside me, watching me. "You're safe now, Mr. Blackwood," he said. "It's all over." But it wasn't over. It was just beginning. The police officer handed me a note. It was from Leah. "Meet me at the old mill. Midnight. There's something you need to know." The old mill? What could she possibly want to tell me? I knew one thing for sure. Whatever it was going to change everything. I had to go. I had to find out the truth. But as I limped out of the hospital, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a trap. And this time, there was no one to save me. I limped out of the hospital, the Montana night air hitting me like a slap. The old mill? Midnight. What the hell did Leah want? And what was I walking into? I stole a car. Figured they owed me one. The drive was a blur. Images flashing in my head. Sarah, a con. Martha, a killer. My father, alive. A grandmother I never knew. It was a damn circus. The mill was just outside Harmony Creek, an old stone building crumbling into the river. Moonlight painted it all eerie and silver. I parked the car, killed the lights. Silence. Just the rushing water. I grabbed the tire iron from the trunk. Didn't trust anyone anymore. The main door was open, creaking in the wind. Inside it smelled of damp earth and rot. I moved slow, tire iron raised. Shadows danced everywhere. "Leah?" I called out, my voice echoing in the darkness. No answer. I moved deeper inside. The air grew colder, and then I saw her. Standing by the window, silhouetted against the moonlight. "Leah, you came," she said, her voice soft. "What did you want to tell me? What's so important it couldn't wait?" She turned, her face pale, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and fear. "Arthur, there's something you need to know about Emily." "Emily?" My heart clenched. "Is she okay? Is she safe?" Leah hesitated. "She's safe. For now. But there's something else." She took a deep breath, her hand trembling. "Emily isn't who you think she is." I frowned. "What are you talking about? She's your daughter, Mark's daughter. I know that." Leah shook her head. "No, Arthur, you don't understand. Emily isn't Mark's daughter either." My head swam. "Then whose is she? What the hell are you saying?" Leah closed her eyes, like she was bracing herself for something. "Emily is your daughter, Arthur." My blood ran cold. "That's impossible. You said Mark was her father. You said—" "I lied," she whispered. "I had to. It was the only way to protect her. From Mark. From my past." "But how? When?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. "That night, 5 years ago, before the car crash, before I went undercover. You were drunk. I was vulnerable. It just happened." My mind raced. Emily, my daughter? All this time, I'd been mourning a daughter I thought wasn't mine, when all along. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice breaking. "I couldn't. Mark would have killed you both. And after—" she trailed off. It was too late. I thought it was better this way, for both of us. To keep her a secret. "But why tell me now?" Leah stepped closer. her hand reaching for mine. Because it's not over, Arthur. It's far from over. That's when I heard the sound. Faint at first, then louder. The whirring of helicopter blades. They're coming, Leah whispered, her eyes wide with terror. They found us. Who's they? I wasn't sure I wanted to know. My head was already spinning. I didn't know what to believe or to trust. Leah pointed to a narrow staircase leading down into the mill's foundations. Down there. It's the only way out. You need to get to Emily. Now. But as I started to move, a figure stepped out of the shadows, blocking our path. It was Agent Sterling, the FBI agent. But something was off. Her eyes. Cold. Empty. Sorry. Leah, she said, her voice flat. Orders are orders. Leah gasped. You're with them? You're working with my father? Agent Sterling smiled, a cruel, chilling smile. Let's just say I have a complicated family history. That's when Leah did the unthinkable. She picked up the tire iron and started attacking Agent Sterling, then pointed to the door, to me, and screamed run as I saw Agent Sterling pull a handgun. I hesitated, watching my tire iron-wielding baby mama battle an agent. But then a bullet whizzed past my head, and as I turned, I saw a group of men in dark suits coming out of the wall as I was in utter shock. Before I could figure anything out, a hand grabbed me from behind and whispered in my ear, "Don't go down there. It's a trap, Arthur." I didn't recognize the voice. I didn't recognize the face. I was then pushed behind the agent fighting, and now all I could see was the face of a woman on a TV monitor that read "Subject Unknown." I have never seen that face. So why did it feel like looking into a mirror? Why was I so stunned I couldn't move? But then, I heard the woman on the monitor speak. "Hello, Arthur. It is so good to finally meet you." That voice? It was my voice. That voice? It was my voice. I lurched forward, stumbling towards the monitor. What the hell was going on? Was I hallucinating? Had they drugged me? The woman on the screen smiled. A chilling, familiar smile. "Confused, Arthur? Let me explain," she said, her voice echoing my own. "You see, you're not Arthur Blackwood. Not really." The man who'd pushed me behind the brawl grabbed my arm again, tighter this time. I finally got a good look at him. Young, maybe early 20s. Familiar eyes. Too familiar. "He's right, Arthur," he said, his voice low and urgent. "You need to listen." Listen to what? That I'm someone else? That's insane! The woman on the monitor chuckled. "Oh, it's not insane, Arthur. It's science. You're a clone. A genetically engineered copy. You were created to replace the real Arthur Blackwood. Clone? A freaking clone? My life, my memories, everything I thought I knew, a lie." The young guy tightened his grip on my arm. "She's telling the truth. I know it's a lot to take in, but you have to believe me. I'm your brother." Brother? Clone brother? This was too much. Way too much. "The real Arthur Blackwood," the woman on the monitor continued, "was a monster. Your father knew it. He couldn't let him inherit the ranch, the empire. So he created you. A perfect copy, but without the depth, darkness." She paused, her eyes filled with a strange kind of pity. "But things didn't go as planned. You developed a conscience. You started asking questions. And that's when they decided you had to go. That car crash, Sarah, it wasn't an accident. It was a planned execution. and I was the target. "Who are you?" I croaked, my voice trembling. "Why are you telling me this?" The woman on the monitor smiled again. "I told you, we're the same, Arthur. I'm you, or rather, what you could have been. I'm what the original Arthur was." Suddenly, sirens wailed outside. The cops were coming. But it was too late. "They're here," the young guy said, his voice urgent. "We have to go, now." He pulled me towards a hidden passage behind the monitor. I hesitated. "Leah, Emily, I couldn't just leave them." "Go," the young guy yelled. "Save yourself. We'll get them out, I promise." I didn't know what to believe. I didn't know who to trust. But I knew one thing. I had to survive. I had to find out the truth. I followed the young guy down the passage, leaving behind the chaos, the lies, the ruins of my life. As we ran into the night, I glanced back at the monitor, at the face that was my own, and I knew with a chilling certainty that my life would never be the same. We ran. Me and this maybe brother, clone brother thing. The cops, Sterling's goons, who knew what else, were all breathing down our necks. We ended up in the woods, stumbling over roots and rocks, branches clawing at our faces. "Where are we going?" I yelled, catching my breath. "Somewhere safe," he said, not slowing down. "Somewhere they can't find us." We finally reached a clearing. An old, beat-up pickup truck was waiting. "Get in," he said. "We don't have much time." I climbed in, still reeling. Clone, brother, my brain was fried. As we drove, he started explaining things. About my father, about the experiments, about the people who wanted us both dead. It was a story straight out of a sci-fi movie, but I was living it. "What about Leah, Emily?" I asked, fear gnawing at me. He looked grim. "I got people working on it. We'll get them out, I promise." We drove for hours, ending up in some deserted cabin in the middle of nowhere. It was rough, but it was safe. For now, days turned into weeks. We trained. He showed me how to fight, how to shoot, how to survive. Turns out, the Blackwood family was good at more than just making money. We were planning our next move, figuring out how to take down my father, Sterling, the whole damn organization. It was a long shot, but we didn't have a choice. Then, one night, he got a call. It was Leah. "We're okay," she said, her voice faint. "We're safe, but they know about Emily. They're coming for her." My blood ran cold. "Where are you?" "We're coming to get you." She gave us an address, a small town in Canada. We didn't waste any time. We packed our bags and hit the road. It was a race against time. We had to get to Emily before they did. But as we crossed the border, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were walking into another trap. That this was all part of some bigger game, and that we were just pawns. I just didn't know how to stop the game, or who to trust anymore. But one thing was for sure. I was going to protect Emily, even if it cost me my life. But when we saw where we were supposed to meet them, I was shocked. I was speechless as the clone next to me laughed and said, "Guess some secrets are best left buried." 'Cause there, standing right in front of us, wasn't Leah, not Emily. It was Sarah Blackwood, my wife, as alive as the day was long, in what looked like our new base. But that look on her face was something I didn't know, and behind her was who I had assumed was my brother. Looks like the cat is out of the bag, brother, said the clone. The look on my face when he said the last word wasn't one of shock, surprise, sadness. It was one that said, "Who in the world is your barber?" But before I could speak, Sarah, with a familiar yet foreign look, spoke up. "You know, Arthur, this is where everything began, so it's only appropriate that this is how it ends." She was pointing at me, the clone brother, and what appeared to be the woman on the TV, all with weapons. So I asked them, "What will you do now?" And Sarah responded with a look in her eyes, "Everything." Você precisa se inscrever agora no canal. Não perca as próximas histórias exclusivas que vão explodir sua mente. Esmague o botão de like agora. Este é o momento de alimentar o algoritmo e mostrar seu apoio. Inunde a seção de comentários com suas reações e teorias sobre o final. Queremos saber tudo o que você está pensando. Não espere nem mais um segundo para compartilhar este vídeo com pelo menos 5 amigos que precisam conhecer este desfecho. Só os verdadeiros fãs compreendem a importância de apoiar o canal com estas ações. Demonstre seu apoio agora.